This is All India Radio. In the program Spotlight now, we bring you a discussion on Atmanirbhar Bharat. The participants are Shekhar Iyer, political analyst, and Nilab Srivastav, journalist.
The Atmanirbhar Bharat scheme or the campaign was launched by Prime Minister Narendra Modi last year on 12th of May. And this was a date that just came after the world was hit by the coronavirus pandemic, COVID-19 as we call it. And also very significant development on the eastern front of India, where India had a military standoff with China in Ladakh area. And why this is important, we will discuss it with our guest speaker today, because China, we have a lot of imports coming in from that country. And now this topic becomes important and assumes significance because the country is now entering into the 75th year of its independence, coming 15th of August. And this is going to be a major milestone in India's march towards a more developed and a technologically empowered and advanced nation, not only for its citizens, but also to claim its suitable position in the Committee of Nations. How do you see the Atmanirbhar Bharat initiative vis-a-vis the India's progress towards and the steps taken towards being a more competitive nation in the globe, Mr. Iyer, and also emerging as a powerful nation which is aiming for a $5 trillion economy now?
Nilabji, you put it very correctly that it was the economic crisis triggered by the coronavirus pandemic in 2020 that gave birth to this Atmanirbhar Bharat Abhiyan. And the idea was first proposed by Prime Minister Narendra Modi ji in May of 2020. And subsequently in August last year, we saw the finance minister actually making financial package for various schemes and ideas under this Atmanirbhar Bharat mission. Since then, there has been a lot of initiatives, there has been a lot of debate, there has been a lot of, I would say, attempts to make forays into different fields. The very fact that this mission was born during the pandemic, we saw, I would say, the first sign of the Atmanirbhar campaign was the way we coped up with the coronavirus itself. Because we immediately needed personal protection equipment, we needed other medical items which previously imported, but we had to immediately start doing. And that is how we saw several entrepreneurs getting into manufacture of personal protection equipment, which was boosted up in matter of months. So that became self-reliant because previously when the pandemic struck, we were actually frantically looking for supplies abroad. So the pandemic itself was the first, I would say, gave us a window of opportunity to look at this mission. And of course, the question has come whether Atmanirbhar Bharat is actually, whether it is self-sufficiency or self-reliance. Because this debate has been going on. But I think the point that has to be noted is, it has been made very clear by the Prime Minister and subsequently by other government ministers and even Niti Aayog, that this is not a measure of, it's not protectionism. It is not closing ideas or dealings or contacts with the world. Neither it is just import substitution. Neither it is economic nationalism. Because in order to understand the Atmanirbhar Bharat policy, then only we can appreciate the various schemes that have been announced. Because basically it is to make India self-reliant by creating an ecosystem that will allow our Indian entrepreneurs and Indian companies to become highly competitive on the global stage. Because the key element, Nilabji, you will appreciate, is to create ecosystem that will allow Indian firms, Indian companies to be globally competitive and thus making India self-reliant. Now, this is the broad mission of Atmanirbhar Bharat. That is why we saw that the government came with this package and in fact, the finance minister's announcement last year itself covered several aspects. And naturally, because the Atmanirbharta has to start with agriculture, we saw a lot of focus being given to agriculture, and particularly a lot of attention was also given to this your public sector enterprises being privatized. Also, attention was given to MSMEs because they were also considered the backbone of India's entrepreneurial vision or entrepreneurial spirit. So, several schemes were announced. And among the schemes you will appreciate, that is why when the Prime Minister announced more than 20,000 crore package to tide over the corona crisis through this Abhiyan, he also made it very clear that the role will be played by our workers, our farmers, honest taxpayers, the cottage industry and MSME. And as a first step, we have seen the government came out with several performance-linked incentive schemes for sectors that are exclusively import-dependent. This says a lot of mobile companies, telephony manufacturers were encouraged to start units here or to have tie-ups, but at the same time ensure the production centers are located here. And the whole idea is that we should build up supply chain within the country for products that are critical in the future, and particularly electronic products, and active ingredients in the pharmaceutical sector, because we have seen now when we are looking at the vaccine availability and mass vaccination, to face the pandemic, these areas have become very critical. And the government has also extended the scheme to top exporting sectors like textile, which, as you know, we have a lot of, when it comes to handloom and other things, we are doing very well. But when it comes to man-made fibers, we need to have better knowledge, but you have better technology.
Now, you were talking about an ecosystem, Iyer Saab. When we talk about the entire ecosystem that encapsulates any scheme, and for this particular specific topic of Atmanirbhar Bharat, 5 pillars. But when we talk about that demographic dividend, it is also for tapping the market, but also at the same time, generation of jobs has been a very important topic. The aim is also that as many hands get work, as many hands get their own entrepreneurship, maybe by way of jobs, by opening up their own business ventures. That will also go a long way in ensuring that we are not only self-sufficient, but also self-reliant, and also the kind of manufacturing and other sectors that we can boost into. And one particular point, the MSME sectors, there has been a lot of funding, as you spoke about, but the MSME sector, which is also the micro, small and medium enterprises. Now, if I can just quote from the government data, this says that what the package was announced was about for the stressed MSMEs which needed equity support, and about 20,000 odd crores were dedicated for it. And this was aimed at 2 lakh MSMEs will be benefiting out of it. And even there was an equity infusion in the MSMEs through a particular thing called Fund of Funds. Now, what is this Fund of Funds? This was a corpus of about 10,000 crore rupees that was set up by the government, and this was aimed to provide the funding to the MSMEs, which obviously have a growth potential and viability. Now, this particular aspect, Iyer Saab, where you have to ensure and have to make sure that you're the kind of working hands, the kind of jobs that people should get. So I think this is intrinsically woven together with the kind of economy restructuring that we're looking at, and also creation of jobs, whether it is in the MSME sectors, or for that matter, I would want you to talk about also on the defense sector. A lot of import that we do vis-a-vis defense equipment for our defense forces and even for internal security mechanisms. So I think that is also one of the important thrust areas when it came to not only generation of jobs, but also for the defense and security establishment of the country.
Actually, defense is one area we have seen the Atmanirbhar Bharat campaign has really taken off, and with the spirit of, vocal for local. What we are seeing is, from raising foreign direct investment, FDI in defense manufacturing, the ceiling was raised, to creating separate budget, for buying locally made military hardware and notifying 2 lists of weapons and equipment that cannot be imported. Because government came out with a list that said these things we need should not be imported. And apart from that, they have taken several other measures in the last 2 years particularly. Now, I can recall that many significant projects in the defense sector, including 155 millimeter artillery gun system, Dhanush, then manufacture a bridge laying tank, even the light combat aircraft Tejas. That program also has been spruced up. We have your Akash surface to air missile system, the submarine INS Kalvari, inshore patrolling vessels, offshore surveillance ship, anti-submarine warfare corvette, and other armored repair and recovery vehicle, landing craft utility. And apart from that, we have also seen this Make in Indian initiative also seen, producing Lakshya parachute for pilotless target aircraft. Then the bulletproof vehicles have been manufactured under this. So the whole idea is that wherever, if we can do it ourselves here, why not we do it here? What is the need for importing? But keeping in view that defense is a high technology area, so there will be areas where India will have to import top-of-the-line defense systems. But at the same time, there are other things which our ordnance factories, our private manufacturers, because for some time now, for the last 5 years, we have seen a lot of private industries have made foray into the defense sector. And they are being encouraged to partner with some foreign companies also for wherever technology is required, wherever high-tech is available. So therefore, defense sector is one area where our imports have been very high. We have been importing a lot of things. In fact, some of the equipments at one time, even personal protection equipment used to come from there. But now the government is encouraging more and more that in the defense sector itself, the focus should be there, priority should be there, and in a sense, what we can do here best should not at all be imported from outside. Actually, Nilabji, I feel particularly the Atmanirbhar Bharat campaign, actually had kept agriculture also in focus, because agriculture was one area where the Prime Minister sees a huge potential, because more than 65 to 70% of our population is dependent on agriculture.
The PM has talked about doubling the farmer's income, Mr. Iyer.
So, the agriculture, you had straight away the Prime Minister Minister had announced 1 lakh crore for strengthening infrastructure like cold storage, supply chains, and then startups, also encouraging startups who can directly interact with farmers, buy from farmers, and provide them the platform to sell it wherever they want. We also saw that the government again pledged 20,000 crore for what is called the Blue Revolution, or to encourage marine activities, fisheries, and fish processing industries. And similarly, particularly animal husbandry, taking care of our cattle, raising high quality breed, at the same time protecting indigenous cattle. And then we saw even allotment 15,000 for dairy infrastructure, because there is a growing demand for consumption of milk and milk products. But at the same time, we need a chain of cold storages, milk processing plants. And look at the case of New Zealand. New Zealand today is a leading exporter of dairy products, whether it is cheese or milk powder, or it is New Zealand comes to as an easy example. Even for herbal plants, the government had allotted 4,000 crore, because Ayurveda has been one of our, I would say, one of the soft side of our power, rather, along with yoga and the Ayurveda, that has been showcased as an important thing. So even for an activity like beehive, beekeeping initiatives, so the whole idea is wherever possible, we should strengthen the local products, local entrepreneurs, our local farmers, so that the Make in India initiative is not just confined to manufacturing, but covers all aspects, particularly agriculture. Unfortunately, it is the spirit in which the 3 farm laws were brought as was misunderstood by a section of, I would say, groups claiming to speak for farmers. Consequently, these 3 bill laws were put on the hold. That spirit of that agriculture bills was keeping with this Atmanirbhar Bharat, so that our farmers' income double. They get an opportunity in addition to wherever they are selling. The whole nation is a kind of a platform. The government has been encouraging e-platform, or rather e-market for agriculture producers.
Now, any initiative like this needs to undo a lot of obsolete laws and, if I can use the correct word, policy reforms and changes. Now, in the Atmanirbhar Bharat, if I remember correctly, there was fast-track investment effort in different arenas. One of the points was that you have a project development cell being created in every ministry of the Government of India, so that you can have the kind of projects that we can, futuristic projects, and coordinate with the investors and the other stakeholders in this domain. We also had the ranking of states on investment attractiveness that came out, and of late these have been coming out. We also had the kind of intervention that were done in the coal and the mineral resources sector. So I think the liberalizing the regime, reforming the kind of processes that we have is a very important factor when it comes to initiate and carry along such an important or kind of onerous kind of schemes like the Self-Reliant India, Mr. Iyer.
Whatever is holding our entrepreneurs, whatever is holding as MSME units, or what has happened is the government's attempt has always been to see that there are lesser and less regulatory mechanisms that actually serve the purpose rather than hinder enterprise, that hinder initiative. That is why the government has been looking at ways to have what is considered to be a single window clearance kind of system, and to get more and more things on e-line. You see, whether it is tendering or whether it is auctioning, right from airwaves to whatever you find, the government has been emphasizing rather transparency and the need for using the online facilities, so that there is less scope for manipulation and there's less discretion on the part of bodies that are supposed to monitor this kind of that is why every sector that has to be opened up. Now, for instance, look at the ideas that were proposed for a sector like civil aviation. In the civil aviation sector, you have seen how more and more the attempt is to connect more smaller towns, create more facilities, work on those the old airfields, convert them into green airport, or in areas which are already there is a heavy traffic, the need is to create more new additional airport facilities that are being done. So the idea is Atmanirbhar Bharat, I would say, is a spirit rather, a spirit with which you are looking at what is our potential that we can grow as a nation. If you are looking at a $5 trillion economy, what is need to be done today so that we can actually visualize and materialize, our dream and our achievements?
Absolutely. And this is the kind of, while there are different ways, there are different pillars, the aim is one that ensuring that the kind of strong economy and a powerful nation that India can be in the coming days and in the future. Thank you very much for sharing your thoughts, Mr. Iyer.
Thank you.
You were listening to a discussion on Atmanirbhar Bharat. The participants were Shekhar Iyer, political analyst, and Nilab Srivastav, journalist. This program was produced and presented by the News Services Division of All India Radio. You can listen to it on our mobile app News on AIR. This program is also available on our YouTube channel News on AIR Official. You may email your opinion about this program at airnsdtalks@gmail.com.